it took a few days. My officers worked the hit and run March the 11th. Our victim, Mr. Ryan Russell, we identified him out at the scene. My officers worked on this, and the assistant chief, they worked on this, put many hours into this. We found out who our suspect was by, luckily the sheriff's office had a license plate reader that was at Joor in Greenville Springs Road that we were able to utilize contacting them, and we got a license plate for our vehicle.
Why did you guys take so long to arrest him? Did he have like some way of negotiating with y'all, buying himself a little bit of time if he knew who it was?
No, actually, they were actively doing their investigation. It took many search warrants to working on this investigation for the vehicle. It was numerous. I think it was with six or so search warrants that were written. I'm gonna let the assistant chief speak a little bit on that. He actively ran this investigation with the officers, but it was a very long and tedious investigation. I appreciate everything that they did. They worked hard on this because we want to make sure when we arrest someone, they go to jail for what they need to go to jail for, and they stay there.
Can you talk a little bit more about how the license plate readers helped you in this?
The license plate, when a vehicle passes the license plate reader, if it's connected to a felony or whatever, it runs the license plate. We were lucky enough that the license plate reader also, photographs the license plate when it passes it. And we had a description of a vehicle, a red pickup truck. We contacted the captain with the sheriff's office. We gave him the description of the vehicle. He was able to look back on their cameras for that time that we were looking for, a specific time of the wreck, and he was able to locate a vehicle fitting that description. Now, from that point, we had to go from there. You just can't go and arrest someone because of the license plate. You have to actively have an investigation, which they worked on for, you can tell, for a month and a half, 2 months. And they went with it from there. And there was a lot to go with it. And we also had one of our citizens here in Central actually saw a vehicle fitting the description parked behind a residence on Sullivan Road. And we did check it out, and lo and behold, it was the vehicle that was seen on the license plate reader, and they went with it from there.
Is this normal, just having him turn himself in? I mean, like, why didn't you guys go to him and arrest him?
Well, we didn't know where he was. He never returned back to the residence. And from my understanding, he had numerous residents registered to his name. So we didn't know where he was. But the assistant chief can go into that because he spoke to the attorney on numerous occasions, setting this up to get him to come bring him in.
I know that Central is getting more license plate readers, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's something that you really wanted to do.
Yes, ma'am, very much so. And it proves that these cameras do work, and they assisted us in this investigation already. And this is a felony, and somebody's going to jail for this. Thanks to those readers and the hard work of the men and women of this department. Cliff?
Following up on your question earlier, within 48 hours, could I have obtained an arrest warrant for the vehicle? Absolutely. The problem is that does nothing. The plate reader at Joor and Greenville Springs gave us a picture of the rear of the vehicle along with the license plate that coincided with the time frame when the traffic accident occurred. About 48 hours after the accident, we had the vehicle in custody. It was seized pursuant to a search warrant. That would have been one of 5 or 6 search warrants that we executed. Following up also, is this normal to let somebody turn themselves in? It was only about a week and some change that we actually obtained a warrant for the suspect's arrest. We had a suspect, but we were still building a case against him to make sure at the very least we had probable cause. The goal obviously is to provide the district attorney's office with proof beyond a reasonable doubt. But at that point, the department executed in excess of 5 search warrants. The chief would like to also thank the assistance of Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul for the assistance his traffic homicide unit provided. Colonel Lamar Davis with the assistance of Trooper Ryan Beard, and the invaluable help that Trooper Andrew Pratt on the technological side in the execution of one search warrant provided us. Also, we would like to thank Sheriff Sid Gotro for the assistance of his crime scene division, which video and photographed the crime scene that night. But with regards, following up on your other question, is it normal? Because we had developed a suspect fairly quickly, even though we may not have had calls to arrest him at that time, I was contacted by an attorney whom I know through other professional associations or relationships. I understood he was going to be represented. But anytime, that aside, anytime we can accomplish our objective with virtual no risk to the suspect, the public, or ourselves, if we can still do our job, that's how we're going to do it, and that's a win at the end of the day.
Absolutely. But could you also explain to me, so he had some violations prior on his record, you know, why was he able to stay out for so long, and yet we couldn't bring him in? Is it just because, like, because he had his driver's license, like, suspended back in 2017? I mean, this is kind of, is that going to play any effect into the bond decision by any chance?
Possibly. Generally, my understanding of what plays into the bond decision, a prior record, the duty judge who will set the bond probably will consider that, along with the seriousness of the offense.
Did he show any remorse at all?
There is, it would be difficult to say in the sense that his attorney made known to us that he spoke very little English. So, you know, I'm not going to read the tea leaves of his body language to tell you one way or another.
And his charges, what was his charges?
Judge found probable cause for the warrant for negligent homicide and felony hit and run.
We'd like to thank y'all for coming out.
How does it make you feel to get this guy off the streets?
Ma'am?
How does it make you feel to get this guy off the streets after a very long process?
Well, I know my officers, they're glad that it came coming to a close. The investigation's not over with. They still go on from here, and if they find anything else out, they investigate it, and they move from there. Because we want to make the best case possible for the attorney's office.
Chief, what do you say to the people of Central?
I'd like to thank them for their patience, thank them for their help, because we did have we had numerous citizens call in about red pickup trucks, and we want to thank them for stepping up and attempting to help the police department in this case.